What kind of room here?
They are making iron utensils in this room over here. They melt the iron in that hole.
Wow.
The terracotta molds left behind were once used to make tools out of iron. But what was created in the next room was a matter of life and death.
Now, what is this room? What was this used for?
It's a workshop, and it's also interesting because there is a pigeon house inside the workshop.
Oh, really?
You know why?
Why?
Because they're making gunpowder out of the pigeon poop.
Many ancient civilizations considered pigeon droppings a precious commodity. Cappadocians had known for centuries that this bird excrement was high in nitrates, and they often used it as fertilizer. But after the invention of firearms, they realized this highly explosive substance was perfect for making homemade gunpowder. And over 500 years later, I was standing in the middle of a subterranean weapons factory.
So Sinan lived above this, a whole working complex.
Whole working complex. They believe living here and not being an architect is not possible.
This is a perfect laboratory
for
a great architect to be raised among.
Yeah.
Amazing.
This perfect laboratory for Mimar Sinan is an invaluable time capsule today. And few people know that everything from the beginning of ancient factories to arches that inspired the world are all right here, buried 20 feet beneath this village in Cappadocia. Up next, a fortified 13th century luxury hotel buried underground.
In the last 50 years, around 200 underground cities have been found throughout Cappadocia, and new ones are found all the time. In fact, just recently, archaeologists discovered another lost city, but this was no ordinary find. It may be the largest and most sophisticated underground city in all of Turkey. It's still being excavated today, but it may rewrite history.
This latest discovery buried beneath Cappadocia is unlike any other. It's located in the town of Gaziamir on the western edge of the region. The locals always believed they lived on top of another world, but they had nothing to prove it. So the government gave them 3 weeks to start digging and see what they could find. A group of villagers got together, and no sooner had they broken ground than they uncovered a time capsule dating back 7 centuries to the dangerous days of the Silk Road.
Wow, there's just new excavation everywhere here.
Everywhere, yes. There. I can see all this excavation going on.
Archaeologist Guzin Karaköy is in charge of this one-of-a-kind dig.
So this is the new underground city they found.
The Silk Road was the major freeway of the ancient world. It was the lifeline that allowed people to get from one place to another, transporting everything under the sun. Incredibly, it extended 7,000 miles, which meant that rest stops were needed. And when it came to rest stops, the Turks went big. Here, beneath Gaziamir, sits a caravanserai, or a fortified Four Seasons of the ancient world. Experts believe this complex might go back 800 years. This rest stop fell out of favor in the 14th century, and hundreds of years of dirt and debris buried it beneath the ground, until 3 months ago, when they cleared away the mud and exposed the newest piece of Cappadocia's past.
So all of this was underground before.
Today we were the first to ever be given access into this unseen underworld.
Off we go. God, it's a whole world in here.
Isn't this beautiful? I'm so surprised to see a place like this.
It's gigantic.
But what was such a massive caravanserai doing beneath Gaziamir? This village sat strategically on the busy 7,000-mile Silk Road. Caravanserais like this one were built every 18 to 25 miles, the distance a camel could cover in a day's travel. It's hard to tell today, but 800 years ago, this would have been an impressive sight. Travelers from all over the world would have entered through a massive guarded gate. Security was always a major concern. Once inside, there were stables for their animals, storage room for their goods, sleeping quarters, baths, wineries, a central room where food was served, and areas for doing business. In essence, it was a city of its own. Caravanserais like this one cover 50,000 square feet, more than an acre. Without these caravanserais, long-distance trading would have been virtually impossible. Fountains, baths, and wineries where guests could unwind after a long day of travel made it well worth the hefty price guests paid to stay here.
What is this here?
That's the cork.
So this kept the wine safe?
Yeah, that's the cork.
How beautiful.
But the luxurious life the innkeepers provided their guests was only a temporary escape from the outside world. In fact, in the 13th century, this entire region was sketchy. This 4-star hotel was smack dab in the middle of a war zone. Most of the local villagers took refuge in the underground cities I had already seen. Travelers on the Silk Road needed security too. The Eastern Roman Empire was left weak and vulnerable by the Fourth Crusades in 1204. Muslim Turkish tribes had infiltrated the area and were constantly at war with each other and anyone in their path. And brutal Mongol invasions were always a threat. Not to mention gangs of thugs and thieves trolling for victims, looking to steal the expensive camels and their cargo.
Wow, Don, look at this.
Yeah.
This is not like the tunnels we've been to.
No, not at all. It's huge, for one thing. I mean, literally, the tunnels are big.
The tunnels were used as corridors to get from room to room. At 10 feet tall, they were larger than most. But they had to be. Asian camels used on the Silk Road could be as tall as 7 feet and weigh as much as 1,500 pounds.
Oh, I see. It splits off in two here.
The camels, the animals were taken out this way, the slope.
The big wide tunnel here.
Travelers from all over the world, mostly rich merchants carrying their goods camelback, would have stopped here to rest after a long day of travel and trade. In this courtyard, they would unload their goods, everything from silk to spices, and tie up their animals. Animals were precious cargo, and they were well cared for at the caravanserais. A staff of veterinarians, saddle makers, blacksmiths, and stable hands would have been on site. So this entire room is filled with camels.
I guess so.
Oh, well, this looks like a bone. God, that's a jaw.
It's an ancient camel jaw.
And a top.
Yeah.
Hey. Oh, my God, that's a little gruesome, isn't it?
From the 13th century.
Yeah, most probably.
I'm going to leave it right there.
In fact, this archaeological site here is the only one in Cappadocia to have ever unearthed camel bones. Just 3 months into this dig, the archaeologists have already unearthed unprecedented relics from the ancient world. But they've only dug out a fraction of this caravanserai, buried here beneath Gazimir. As they continue to excavate, who knows what else they'll find. For now, the mud is the only thing separating the past from the present.
Like ancient time capsules, these underground cities preserve Cappadocia's dark and mysterious past, from the harsh existence of the Neolithic era to the brutal warfare of the Dark Ages. Today, like their ancestors, locals are once again moving back into these ancient caves, turning them into boutique hotels and luxury homes. But next time they want to renovate, they knock down a wall or dig a new well. Who knows what secrets they'll find hidden in the caves of Cappadocia.